What is the dumbest thing you have done while thorny? Jerked off in the private work bathroom, forgot to lock the door, and the new guy walked in on me and he quit a week after. October 30th, 1991. I walked 8 miles through hurricane-force winds on Nantucket Island to spend the night with my girlfriend. Midway into taking my time with this girl making ruthless sex, she said in broken moans, "Come for me." Which I thought she said, "Comfort me." So I stopped and gave her a hug. Very drunk and thorny. Dry humped my first fling at a college party. Everyone was there. The lights were still on and everything. I still cringe. At least he seemed to enjoy it, I guess. And at least everyone was as drunk as me. Like 20 years ago, I was heading to my friend's house when I remember that this cute girl from class said she worked at a Starbucks, but one that was like 45 minutes away. I impulsively drove the whole way there for a chance to see her. She wasn't there. When I showed up to my friend's house, they were like, "Why are you like an hour and a half late?" Not me, but my step-brother, when he was a teen, put his dig into the mouthpiece of a plastic flute and blew himself. My stepmom walked in on him, and now every few Christmas he gets one as a gag gift. Drunkenly called a phone 6 line, but was so thorny and drunk that I didn't clue until after I hung up that I had used my father's landline instead of my cell phone. That was an awkward talk the next day. One time I made love to a stack of bathroom towels. Had 6 because I was going to get a vasectomy soon and knew my companion pickle would be out of action for a while. Wore a condom. It split. Now I have a 6-year-old. Stupidest best decision I ever made. Tried using jelly as lube. It's a very sticky mess. It's like masturbating in water, but significantly more friction. Wanted to jerk off. Climbed a hill to get some privacy while still having the rush of exhibition. Apparently there must have been some poison ivy on that hill. The next morning was not pretty. Pretty sure my dig swelled up 2 to 3x its girth. It hurt to pee and I had to be naked as much as possible to avoid rubbing. It really sucked. For those of you that don't know what flarp is, it's a very moist and squishy putty that makes fart sounds when you press your fingers into it. My local dollar store sold giant tubs of it that you could jam your whole hand into for massive farts and laughs for the whole family. My friend and I bought one and took turns frocking it while watching Girls Gone Wild in his dad's man cave. Texted my ex. Trying to choke myself with a belt and ending up putting all the pressure on my arteries instead, which only got me the biggest nosebleed of my life and feeling dangerously lightheaded. Pretty much everything I have done while thorny. It's just a generally undignified state to be in. Think icy hot cream would make an acceptable lube for jerking off. Spoiler alert. Ooh, this is interesting. Wait. No. Ouch. Hot ouch. In my defense, I was in my teens at the time. I ended up making out with and going home with an attractive but completely crazy woman who used to hang around our local bar. Back at her place, she puts on her Lauryn Hill CD, strips completely naked, attempts to dance provocatively. We were both pretty drunk, and starts giving me a BJ. It was at this point her 18-year-old son wandered into the lounge and started protesting violently about what was going on. She tells him to frock off and huge argument erupts between them. Remember, she's drunk and naked and I'm sitting on the sofa with my jeans around my ankles and a rapidly deflating hard-on. I came to my senses. Zipped back up and GTFO. Apparently she's currently doing time for violently assaulting and attempting to stab her boyfriend. So I think I got off pretty light. Texted. It's been my experience that thorny texting can be significantly worse than drunk texting. My uncle had a heart attack and the doctor told him sexual activity would be too much. Well, he tried to autoerotic asphyxiate using a logging chain in his garage and ended up hanging himself with his pants around his ankles. His son found him. I once frocked a watermelon. That was really weird. Also kinda tricky getting the right hole size so that it actually was nice thrusting in and out of it. Felt really good though. Up to the point where you feel guilty when throwing it away right after. Left the house at 11 p.m. to drive 4 hours to have 6 in a sleeping bag in a hotel. Then had lunch with her parents the next morning. We have been married for 15 years this December, so it worked out. As a 14 years old, used a soccer bopper for fun times, any port in a storm, and all that. My dumbass didn't think about how chaffed I would be afterward. Had to skip football practice cause I could barely walk straight. Didn't have a car at the time. My dumbass walked 4 miles to hers at 2 in the morning. Called multiple times. She was dead asleep. Dragged my blue balls another 4 miles back and cried myself to sleep. Gave this chick I barely know a ride to hang out with some other guy a couple times because she agreed to frock me if I did. The first time she was too nervous, so we didn't do anything. The second time I couldn't even get hard because she had some bad swamp ass. I wish I just deleted her friend request that started the whole ordeal in the first place. Shoved a tennis racket handle up my ass. Humped in between my sofa cushions to completion. Frocked a couch. Don't worry. I wore protection. I used to finish inside an ex of mine every time we had sex. She was on birth control but would tell me she had baby fever. And while having sex would tell me she wanted me to get her pregnant. We banged 3 to 4 times a week. Genuinely surprised we never had a pregnancy scare. Not me, but a friend would frock a huge piece of meat that he kept under his bed when he was younger. That made me feel better about my worst thorny action. Dug a penis-size hole in the ground. Filled it with packing grease. Frocked it. Talked to anyone who wasn't also equally thorny. The mind turns to foam as all blood flows to the lower half. Either it somewhat works and they're made thorny with me, or I end up looking like a complete moron. A piece of my credibility dies each time this is done. I cringe at the thought of what was said. It's also cringeworthy to be on the receiving end. Blah. Not me, but my brother. He stuck it into the nozzle of a milking machine on the farm. He was 14 and it bruised the hell out of him. The swelling was bad and he had to show dad. He was okay, but the rest of us thought it was funny. You can bet we milked it for all it was worth. 13-year-old me needed something better than just OL righty. So I searched the cupboards for something new to frock. Found a bottle of icy hot. I thought it would burn so good, so all in one motion I lathered it all over my dig and balls. It burnt so horribly wrong. Jumping in the shower to wash it off just made the burning worse. 1/10 don't recommend. I still finished though. When I was younger and embarrassed about the nature of being a man and what came with that, I ended up jerking off in a church parking lot to control my boner. I gorilla gripped that thing to prevent a mess, but it was the only thing that worked to put an end to it for at least an hour. I feel bad about it, but I come from a weird background and didn't know how to handle growing up properly. There were so many pretty girls and I was so young that even thinking about naked old people didn't quench my biological loinfire. Unprotected 6 on her period. Broke up the next week. She slept with a guy the day after. Got pregnant. Spent 9 months not knowing who the dad is. Prenatal tests illegal in my country. Wear protection, boys. Asked her if she wanted me to nut in her. She said it's fine, she's not ovulating. I took a chance. Now she's 5 months pregnant with twins. We've been together for 3 years. Still going strong. Just had to be twins. When I was in my late 20s, I got into edging and much of the associated activities. In a fit of passion and slipperiness, I accidentally spilled a bottle of poppers all over myself. When horniness leads you to highly flammable inhalants, it's time to reconsider whether that pleasure is worth it. I took a big step back from all of that. One of the times that the post-nut thought of, what the fuck was I doing here, actually led to changed behavior. I once got busy in a Burger King bathroom. Me and my family went on a road trip and I hadn't masturbated in 11 days, so obviously I was super thorny. I chose to sit in the backseat. I threw some blankets over me, put some porn on my phone and went at it. I commoned in my pants 3 feet away from my parents. The worst part is that I didn't learn my lesson. 3 months later we went on a different road trip. The exact same thing happened. 3 years later, I regret everything I did. Drove 30 miles to pick a guy up. Drove him back to my house. Took my clothes off and he was half naked before he went. Yeah, I'm not feeling it, can you drive me home? Drive 30 miles back to his house and drove 30 miles back to mine. Spent $50 filling up my gas tank. He didn't offer any gas money. Had a wank in the public toilets in Moscow airport at 4 a.m. on a layover. The toilet was very busy and very smelly. And had lots of men speaking Russian. It was not easy to rub one out. A girl I was interested in asked me to come over for some drinks. She lived on a large property on the edge of town. I got dropped off by a coworker just outside her gated entrance around midnight. What said girl failed to mention was that she had a large Rottweiler who was losing his frocking mind at me on the other side of the fence. This was before I had a cell phone, so I had no way of calling her. So being young and dumb, I crept around the property and hopped the fence. I ninja crept to the front door, knowing that at any moment Cujo could end me. Luckily I made it and the dog was pretty chill after he realized I was good people. Frocked a honey-dew melon. Would recommend. When I was a teenager, my gran was out for the week and let me house sit. Naturally I had my then girlfriend round, and since we had an empty house, proceeded to go at it like rabbits. Being lazy AF, we ended up with a mound of used condoms on the floor next to the bed. AAAAND. On the last day we lost track of time. And super stressed once we realized we'd have to leg it to catch the last train. Forgot all about said mound. She was not happy. Browsing Pornhub for 6 hours looking for that perfect clip. Took Adderall and edged myself to porn for 20 straight hours. Had downloaded hundreds of vids and used Media Player Classic in a playlist to efficiently find all the hottest parts of the vid to edge to and then skip to the next one. Had to call in sick to work that Monday. I started sad evening with marathon. But I busted so bad I had to throw away my shirt. Edit. Spelling and also why is this upvoted? Frock. Dropped $2,000 on strippers. In my defense, I was also high on coke. Drove an hour to pick up a boy from his parents' house. Then an hour home to have 6. Then repeated the drive the next morning to drop him off. Edit. Since multiple people have pointed out my wording is a little strange. I did not have 6 with a child lol. I just meant a young guy. We were both 19. Edit 2. Yes, it was worth it. We were highly compatible. Told her that I loved her. I drove 100 miles to go bang this chick except my car broke down on the way there. Just right at the exit. Her dad came out to give me a push. Turns out they were having a family party and I was automatically invited. It was surreal sitting down eating among a family who never met me or heard of me until that day, as my mind was filled with how many ways her and I will be frocking. She apologized profusely, as so did I, for my car breaking down. I just wanted to bang. To which I didn't. All I got was a nice lecture from the parents on why driving out 100 miles for a frock is never worth it and how stupid it is. This was a little over 12 years ago, and to this day, I never ventured more than 30 miles for a potential frock. Learned a costly lesson that day. Slept with a lawyer. Tried to buy a $300 silicone ass in Montreal during college, where my debit card got declined. Locked. And I had to explain to my dad that it was not in fact hacked and stolen. Drove an hour to a stranger's house, put on a blindfold, and went inside. Fell in love. Worst attempt at a one-night stand ever. Been together 3 years now. Took a blanket and rubbed it on the tip like I was polishing a shoe because I was a dumb middle schooler without 6 ed. Ended up bleeding and peeing. Continued doing it for months until I finally decided to try the thing the guys in porn do. Not a lot of women chiming in. So I'll go. It was my birthday night, and my booty call for the night said something super frocking rude, so I kicked him out. But I was still really in the mood for drunk 6, so I went to my garage and announced to a couple of buddies, "Men, I'm going to bed. Whoever comes up to, I'm frockin'." Or some dumb salute sit like that. In walks dude. We had some awesome 6, and got married 3 months later. This year will be 12 years. We have 2 boys, and now after reading all these, not exactly prepared to find frocked fruit and couches in my future. Lol. I masturbated in the church bathroom. Jacked off while driving. Those curves on the road made my pants fit a little tighter. Edit. Thank you for the gold. It's my first less than 3. Get chlamydia. Got married at 21. Also my best decision while thorny. A long time ago, I slept with my weed dealer. I didn't know he actually had feelings for me. I just wanted to hook up. No more weed after that. Had a wank while I was having a lap dance at the strip club in GTA 5. Got stoned. Used the beat-up condom that had been in my wallet to beat off. Was hungry after. Kept condom on. Walked to McDonald's. Started to walk back. Cut through the woods. Ate my McDonald's in the woods. Beat off into the condom again. Kept it on. Got home. Smoked more. Beat off into it a 3rd time. Not me. But I was dating this girl once in high school and we were in my room making out naked. Nothing strange or out of the ordinary. When out of absolutely nowhere she plunges her head down and clamps her teeth onto my nipple like the chain chomp from Mario 64. I have no idea what was going through her brain to cause her to think that sudden nipple biting with no previous notice would be appropriate in any situation ever. What's even worse is that when I obviously screamed in pain and reflectively pushed her off, she got super offended by it, like you were about to bite my tit off. What were you honestly expecting? I'm more curious than anything about what she honestly would have done if things went her way and I didn't stop her. I frocked my bong. Whatever I did while thorny, it will never ever have been as bad as the guy who kept masturbating with a rancid coconut. So, there was this one time my friend and I finally agreed to go on a date after being good friends for so many years. She was supposed to stop by first and then I'd drive. I was ready early. And then I remembered all those sage advice on how you should rub one out before going on a first date. I looked around and grabbed the first thing I see. A picture of her. So like any civilized man, I placed her picture, framed, on the coffee table, laid on the couch and started the deed. About a minute in, my door opens, and in comes my friend. My pants were off. Her picture was on the table. She connected the dots. Apparently I've forgotten to take the keys off the outer doorknob after I got home the night before from grocery shopping. We don't talk much anymore these days. Masturbate whilst riding a bike. I made some bad decisions arranging hookups online. Fortunately those meetings were, at their worst, Just extremely awkward and not at all pleasant. But in retrospect, I could have put myself in rather considerable danger. Meeting up with complete strangers for sex is a recipe for getting in deep, deep trouble, folks. I once had sex with Eartha Kitt in an airplane bathroom. I have used a lot of non-dildo objects to get off in my time. Some I regret. Some I am proud of finding. Most I regret. Actually. Sorts by controversial. All of them. I'm always thorny. Frocked a stranger without a condom a couple of days back. So here I am, hoping that pregnancy and STD test I'm gonna take in a couple weeks comes back negative. Agreed to come over after having a Taco Bell $5 box at 2 a.m. Drove an hour to her place. Sit my pants in the car. Made an excuse to use her shower. Tried to frantically clean my city underwear with Lysol and hand soap in the sink. Then had half flaccid city. Somewhat literally. 3 pump 6 and drove an hour home again. Answered a Craigslist ad for extra dudes for a bukkake party at a motel. The post-nut clarity was the weirdest moment of my life. Got Skype scammed. Edit. Stop. I don't want my lowest of lows to become my #1 comment. Edit. Basically I got my private part screen recorded because Thorny Me was convinced it was a real girl. I convinced the scammer I was poor. Blocked him. Disabled my account. And never heard from him again. Driven 2 hours to frock a wife while her husband watched. Was okay but not worth the drive. Hooked up with a friend I regularly played video games with. Started yelling his gamer tag instead of his actual name mid-6. We laugh about it now, but I still hate myself for it when I think about it. Exchanged blowthrobs in a car. Frocked in the Westminster Abbey. A college friend once confessed to me that he splooged off the side of his bed one time as a teenager. The next day, his sister asked, "What's that white stuff on the black cat?" I did something so stupid I ended up on the front page of Reddit for it. Hooked up with a girl that already had a reputation of being absolutely insane after we both threw up under the same tree. 'Cause I thought it was cute. She completely and utterly destroyed my life and every valuable relationship I ever had over the span of the next 3 years. I ended up 40 pounds heavier, homeless and suicidal. Would not recommend. I envy the guy who frocked an earth hole somewhere above in this thread. Was traveling with family and hogged the bathroom while taking a shower. It was one of those detachable heads and the water pressure was amazing. I spent over an hour in the shower having multiple orgasms, and watching myself do so in the mirror. Is it self-centered to be turned on by myself? Until I got yelled out by my mom for hogging the shower when everyone was sweaty and gross. Got real close to hooking up with a 31-year-old chick who sold coke. Planned to go be a stripper as her life wasn't going to plan. And showed me an elaborate dance with some weird props when she took me back to her apartment. I was 18 at the time and it suddenly occurred to me that this was a very bad idea, so I got her to drop me off back at my buddy's place where I'd started the partying that night and tried to pretend like nothing had happened. Jerked off on my roommate's bunk right in front of him and 3 other guys when I thought no one would see me under the covers. My parrot has a perch that looks like a pointing finger. I'm a man questioning my sexuality. I think you can guess where this is going. Frocked on an air mattress in my garage while my kids were asleep in the house. Asked her to marry me. Jerked off the cheerleaders in NBA 2K. I had 6 in a church, while church was going on, with the pastor's daughter. Tried to take a seggy pic for my girlfriend in my car at college. It was an older car, keep that in mind. So I pulled my back seats down and crawled into the trunk. On the way into the trunk the seats closed and I was still in the trunk. There was no emergency release, so I was trapped and my keys were in the front seat. I called all my buddies on campus and none of them would help me. So I had to call campus police. I told them all they had to do was open the front door, take my keys and pop the trunk. The policewoman thanked me for this cause. That was the funniest situation they've ever responded to. I've never been so embarrassed in my life. Okay, so I was pretty frocking young and dumb. I put like shower gel on a Q-tip and shoved it into my dig. Jokingly told a coworker that I really wanted to frock her. Tried to watch porn on dial-up.